So, a little bit of interesting inside baseball to disclose to all you wonderful viewers. There is an internal survey that goes out periodically to Democratic consultants and politicos where they state who they believe is going to be the Democratic nominee. This is a private survey that isn't released publicly, but a journalist named Tom LoBianco was given a copy of the survey results and has shared them publicly. So they've been leaked, I guess you would say. And what do you know it? Here is who is expected to win the nomination for the Democrats as of August 20th, according to, again, the consultant class, you might say. 61% say Elizabeth Warren is going to win the Democratic presidential nomination. She's followed by Biden at 24%, Harris at 12%. Bernie does not even register on this little inside baseball poll. And here's, for comparison's sake, the numbers from March in the same little survey, which is the last time it was taken. Harris at that point was at 33%, so she's dropped by 21. Biden, interestingly, was at 13 at that point, so he's gone up somewhat. Sanders was at 11, and he's apparently not even registering anymore. And Warren was at 8% in March. So Warren has rocketed up by 53% in terms of her likelihood to win the nomination according to these consultant types. Now, I'm not sharing this information as though it's predictive necessarily of the primary result. I'm sharing it as a window into the thinking of the consultant class. Because obviously, going by these data, their whims can change dramatically within a matter of months. If Warren only had 8% saying that she was going to win in March, has that much really changed now in August? I would argue not really. I mean, I think she's obviously on an upward trajectory poll-wise. But you'd think if these political experts are really experts, as they purport to be, that's how they make a living, they would have discerned that Warren at least had enough of potential to win the nomination where she wouldn't be at 8% in that metric. And the fact that Harris was the front runner among these types in March, again, just really tells you how oblivious they are. I've always said that Harris was profoundly overrated. I said that right away. I still believe that she'll crash and burn, and she already has to some extent. But I just don't think that she's a viable contender and never have. Warren, I could see the argument for, but still not quite convinced. But the fact that Sanders is not even registering on the poll here is amazing. Sanders is at, second or third, depending on how, when you look at it on any given day in the national averages. He was actually surpassed recently by Warren for the first time in a sustained way in the national polls. And there are a couple data points here and there that don't bode particularly well for him, but the idea that he's out of contention now is really an insight into the warped insular thinking of the Democratic consultant class than anybody else, than anything else really. I mean, Bernie still has a very good chance of winning the nomination, and I've said that since last year. You can go find a piece that I wrote in November or December of last year when I said, hey, Bernie's pretty much the front runner. Now, I still think that Bernie is arguably the front runner. It's kind of a pointless semantic issue there. But I think, I would always tack on, especially in Iowa, and even New Hampshire, but especially Iowa, given that it's a caucus state, tack on almost like an extra 5 points to whatever his polling total is on a given day, because he's got an incredibly enthusiastic and skilled activist base behind him, and he overperformed the polls in Iowa in 2016 and lost by less than a percentage point to Hillary in 2016. He's the runner-up, so he has some built-in advantages there. I don't want to get into like a ultimately pointless prediction game, but the idea that Bernie would not be on the radar of these people is amazing. Now, what does it tell us ultimately? It just tells you that the people who purport to be professional prognosticators politically are basically just following conventional wisdom. I mean, there's a conventional wisdom now that Warren is the likeliest to win the nomination. In fact, if you look at betting markets, Warren is up pretty substantially. She's now ahead of Biden. There's a website called electionbettingodds.com, which apparently is founded by John Stossel, where they aggregate all the various betting sites in terms of the odds of the winner of the nomination. And as of today, Warren is at 29.4% in that aggregate total of the betting markets. Biden's at 26.7%. Sanders 11.4%. Harris 10.8%. Amusingly, Hillary Clinton is at 2%, which is ahead of Booker, Gabbard, O'Rourke, Klobuchar, etc. Which, I mean, I could see the case for that. If something dramatically crazy happens and Hillary were to get in the race, she would be obviously one of the leading candidates. But, that's sort of just one of these moonshot scenarios that the betting markets price in case something goes catastrophically wrong. Like a death or something dramatic like that. So the point is, don't trust the consultants. They're as fickle as anybody. They're going off basically the same data as you and I. They do wish casting, which is to say they forecast future events largely in accordance with what they want to happen. So I think a lot of them now want Warren for a variety of reasons. They think that she can best unite the differing factions of the party. She obviously has some support within the kind of remnant Hillary Clinton faction. I think a lot of these people who are like in kind of Clinton holdover types are not enthused about Biden, which I think maybe means that they're sort of underrating him. Like, I would not put him at 24%. I'd put him higher. Doesn't say, not to say he's a favorite, but you can't, the candidate leading the polls nationally and in the states, in the early states, for this amount of time, which Biden has, is not, less than a quarter of it likely to win the nomination. So just thought that was interesting. That's not the kind of information that you usually get publicly. You can kind of gauge the sentiments of these hacks in sort of a scattershot way. But, they like to have their private little email listservs and chats and stuff where they basically bounce conventional wisdom off one another and try to hype their insights, which are no better than the average citizen. I mean, literally, random Twitter commentators were more valuable analysts in 2016 than your average, obscenely well-paid consultant. So don't take them as having any predictive value, but do take them as shedding light on how the party functionaries are conceiving of the race at the moment. And that likely means that Warren's going to get a lot of positive press coverage. Maybe some of her faults are not going to be as emphasized. I don't hate Warren. Actually, there's a lot to be admired about her. But, you have to kind of look askance when there's a consensus building among these insiders as to her viability. Because usually their opinions are catastrophically wrong. All right, I will talk to you later.